At its core, Celeste is a game about climbing a mountain. But can our protagonist Madeline conquer the cliffs of this magic mountain without actually climbing it? I'm Snugpig, and today we're going to see if it's possible to scale the famous Celeste mountain without climbing. In Celeste, you have 4 basic moves. You can run, jump, dash, and climb. In this playthrough, we won't be using our climb, so we will only have our run, jump, and dash to rely on. To make things easier, I'll be using the variant mode to make it impossible for me to climb, so don't accidentally do it, just to make things simpler. We are still able to cling to surfaces, but we'll just slide down them. First stop, Prologue. This chapter, if you can even call it that, is normally the introduction to Celeste's great moveset, but this time we need to do some neutral jumps to slowly scale the walls. The neutral jump is a way to climb walls without using stamina or actually climbing. We'll be using this a lot this run. We talk to Granny and head across the bridge to Chapter 1, the Forsaken City. Luckily, most of this chapter does not change at all, except for a few rooms. However, we encounter our first problem at the very last room of this chapter. We can't cling to the traffic blocks long enough to cross the chasm, so we'll need to neutral jump up the left side of the room. Although it took a while, I was able to successfully finish Chapter 1 without climbing. Now we wake up in a dream at the old site. This chapter ended up being even easier than the first, with no overly difficult rooms of note. Of course, the next chapter would be a different story. In a casual playthrough, Chapter 3, the Celestial Resort, is a big difficulty spike. This is magnified tenfold for us. There are 2 major roadblocks waiting for us in this haunted hotel. First, in this room, we can't neutral jump over the spikes on the second pillar. After a lot of trial and error, I ended up making the gap by dashing up into the hallway above, wall jumping, then dashing forward. Next, near the end of the chapter, in this room, the demon dust bunnies are squeezed so close to the wall, we would normally need to climb, making neutral jumps pointless. Luckily, there's a way to just barely dash up through it and jump to the left wall without getting hit. We get to the presidential suite and chase after Madeline after she breaks open the ceiling. Then Mr. Oshio does his usual chase, and we are clear. 3 chapters down and no climbing. It's looking good for us until we get to the 17th room of Chapter 4, the Golden Ridge. We've had a few minor problems before this area, but using some weird speedrun tactics, we've managed to get through. But it's clear that we cannot get enough height to clear this wall without climbing. We can't neutral jump either, because of the wind. We have to climb this wall to clear the room. But we aren't done yet. We now know that you need to climb sometimes, but how many rooms do we need to climb to beat Celeste? If you're a Celeste player, I encourage you to try to beat the rooms I failed in without climbing. Comment down below if you beat any rooms I couldn't. Naturally, the next room is also impossible without climbing because of the wind, and the room after the next. There are many more clearly impossible rooms in this final subchapter, including this one, this one, this one, and finally this one, though it's probably possible if you're able to jump on a snowball to regain your dash. Now we are at 6 climbs and 4 chapters. The next 2 chapters, Chapter 5, the Mirror Temple, and Chapter 6, Reflection, require no climbing. In Chapter 5, I use a couple of skips to make things easier. First, I skip the second key of the chapter, which is normally done if you're going to get the Crystal Heart, and I do a reverse hyperdash near the end of the Search subchapter to skip 2 keys. We find and rescue Theo and escape the Mirror Temple with no problem. In Reflection, nothing much changes, except that it's a little harder to stay on the Kevin blocks. After easily beating Madeline and performing the very serious sound glitch, we are ready for Chapter 7, the Summit. The first 4 subchapters are a breeze. We can easily run, jump, and dash through the obstacles. But all that changed when the Golden Ridge is attacked. In this room near the start, we cannot neutral jump because of the wind, but even if we could, there's only a 1 block gap to climb through, which we can't do. This one is impossible by my standards. There's a few more problematic rooms, but I was able to get past all of them. Next, at the Mirror Temple section, there's an impossible room early on, because we can't climb on the swap block. Luckily, there's a way to skip this. I restart the section and use the red bubble at the beginning to go left, to the secret strawberry room. Next, I take the other red bubble right, skipping the first 2 rooms of the subchapter and allowing me to safely move on. The rest of the temple is pretty easy, until we get to the final screen. Here, we have to cling to the swap block because there are spinners on the top and bottom. We also need to climb on the twin blocks at the very end, but I'm counting that as one climb since they're so close together. It's the home stretch. We have climbed only 9 times. Can we make it without climbing again? No. No, we cannot. Our first impossible task in this section is at the end of checkpoint 14. We cannot do a high enough neutral jump here to clear the gap. Next is near the end, at checkpoint 3. There's a small space for us on the wall, so we need to climb it. It may be possible to dash through it, but I wasn't able to. We also need to climb again later in this section, but I'm counting it as 1. Right before the final checkpoint, we also need to climb. Luckily, this is the final time we need to. We easily make it to the summit after this, and the credits roll. It ended up not being possible to beat Celeste with 0 climbing, but almost 4 hours and over 1,000 deaths later, we beat Celeste while only climbing 12 times. Thanks for watching. This was a fun video to make, and if you could cut down the climbs necessary, please comment down below. If you want me to attempt chapters 8 and 9, please like the video, and see you later.